addressing barriers that could be encountered on your TPM and Operational Excellence improvement journey. Presenting the session today is the founder and president of CTPM, Ross Kennedy. Since CTPM's establishment in 1996, Ross has developed an improvement methodology that is centered around progressively developing and engaging all personnel to identify problems at the earliest possible time, solve them to root cause, and share the learning. Over this time, Ross has become recognized as Australasia's leading authority on total productive maintenance and CTPM's Australasian TPM lean approach to TPM and operational excellence. So with that being said, let's now get started with today's session, and I'll pass you over to Ross.
Thank you, Nelson, and welcome everyone to our webinar today on addressing barriers that could be encountered on your TPM and Operational Excellence improvement journey. And thank you to our members who have requested this topic. What we want to cover is four issues. One, key parts of a TPM and Operational Excellence improvement journey, so we can see where the barriers can be impact on us. Two, identify possible barriers that can derail your improvement journey. And the three we've identified: lack of senior management support, which I think is a pretty obvious one, and then other which probably may not be so obvious: ineffective frontline leaders, they're your wages leading hands people, and future shock impacting your leaders at the front line. Third thing is, how do we assess if you're heading for future shock, because that's the one that can have a very big impact, and how best to minimize future shock. So hopefully you'll enjoy what we have to talk about. So I thought I'd start off with the key parts of the TPM and Operational Excellence improvement journey. Now, this model is probably familiar with those who've attended my webinars previously. It's really a summary of the key parts. Like, if you look on the left, you've got performance. So you've got your current performance, which is your expectation or target line. And then above that is world-class. And what we have is our improvement vision of what do we want to achieve. And we have what we call proactive improvement, which is focuses on improving the business, on how we can achieve the improvement vision, which is world-class. Below the current line, you have what we call reactive improvement, which is all about focus on running the business. So when things don't go to plan and we don't achieve our targets for the day, it might have a breakdown, might have a quality issue or whatever, reactive improvement is all about how quickly do we get back to where we should be, and most importantly, how do we stop it from happening again. And at the very base is what we call stable production plan through flow logic. And what we've found, if you don't have a stable production plan, you get a lot of firefighting going on, and again, people don't have time to do the proactive improvement. So if we look at the top, and in our key parts, the improvement vision is the responsibility of your site leadership team. So it's very important, if you're going to be successful at a journey, you have a site leadership team that puts a support structure in place, and which would include having an improvement coordinator, for example. And one of the key roles of the site leadership team is to get goal alignment through the site. And that's where we develop our key success factors for operations, our range of measures: safety, quality, customer satisfaction, delivery, plant and equipment, people performance, etc. And then hanging your measures off that. So that's sort of the leadership bit. The activities for proactive improvement, the CTPM Australasian TPM and Lean framework is our, as we affectionately call our lean burger, lean hamburger. And apart from having the safety and quality as the umbrella at the top, you have your production activities, your production support activities, and your value stream activities. And underpinning that, or the base of the hamburger, is the people and leadership development. Then underneath that, you've got reactive improvement, which is the running of the business. And that's all about having effective daily review meetings at all levels in the organisation, and running effective daily review meetings that will, one, when issues come up, fix them, and then most importantly, stop them from happening again, which is typically two parts to that. Either it's a simple fix, you just go out and do something, like introduce a preventive maintenance system so we find out about the problem before it breaks down, Or if it's more complex, we might go and introduce root cause analysis. And again, we need triggers and policies to guide our root cause analysis. Obviously, our performance monitoring system and our production planning system feeds into our running of the business. Then we have our knowledge base of collecting all the learning from our improvement activities, which feed in from either our proactive activities or our reactive improvement activities. And then you have your systems to support your work order or work request system for getting maintenance work done. You have your defect lists from your TPM activities, which go into your defect management system. So that's basically what all the parts of an improvement journey is all about. It's not just doing a few projects. Like some companies go and say, well, hang on, we'll just go and do Six Sigma and do project after project after project. No people development focus, and you're not looking at the whole picture like we have in our model. So let's identify possible barriers that could derail your improvement journey. Well, the first one is lack of senior management support. So let's look at some signs when they don't walk the talk, because what we've learned is that if you're going to be successful on the improvement journey, you need to get senior management to walk the talk. In other words, they can say all the things they like about how great improvement is and how important it is, but unless they actually do things that people can see them doing, there will not be that buy-in or support from the workforce. So the things that show that they're not walking the talk: there's no site leadership team for improvement that meets weekly and sets the example by being the model improvement team. There's no improvement vision. We saw that on our previous model. Yes, they have a company vision, but is there one specifically for improvement? No world-class targets with timeframes supported by annual targets for the site's key success factors for operations. So having your key success factors for operations, so having a framework to get goal alignment, and then setting targets that can be monitored on a weekly basis. And hence having no weekly site scoreboard on display so people can see how we're going. And finally, most importantly, this walk the talk is having the senior managers, the site leadership team for improvement members involved in improvement teams. And they should be on one cross-functional, for example, improvement team per cycle, and not as leader, but to be a member to learn all about what the improvement methodologies are about. And secondly, to show support and encouragement to the teams. So again, lack of senior management support, no improvement vision. Why is that so important? Well, first of all, the vision is what do we want to become or achieve, and by when? So it's a time frame. And in the video from Joel Barker in Power of Vision, he makes, I think, 3 very valid points. One, vision without action is merely a dream. So it's all very well having a vision, but if you haven't got an action plan, having actions, going out doing projects and improvement projects without this vision of where you want to get to, your improvement vision, you're just passing the time of day. You're not going to get to operational excellence or TPM and operational excellence. And the third one is, and most important one, vision with action can change the world. So if you're trying to transform your organization to world-class through your TPM and operational excellence journey, you need vision, very important, improvement vision with action. And in fact, what we've found for companies to be successful, they need not only an improvement vision, but their operations vision, their maintenance vision, and their operator excellence vision. And we talked about improvement vision, operator vision, and maintenance vision in my last month's webinar, if anyone wants to research that a bit further. The other lack of senior management support is no world-class targets supported by annual targets. So in this graph, you've got on your left the key success factors and the performance measures that link or hung off the key success factors. Their definitions, obviously, time frame for benchmarking or reviewing. So at the end of the year, you don't just look at how do we go for the year on average, because if you're improving, it's going to change. So you look back, say 6 weeks, and say, how do we go for the last 6 weeks? As compared to how do we go 12 months ago for the 6 weeks prior to that. That's what I mean by time frame for comparing performance. On the right-hand side is your, now if your improvement vision, and what we typically find most companies, we recommend a 5-year journey to get you focused on achieving world-class performance. So you look out 5 years and say, what are the figures? What should they look like? And then you've got your baseline, and then you can look and extrapolate and put in the annual targets. Then you've got something to compare each year to say, are we making enough progress? Are we being effective in what we're doing? Now, you then need a site scoreboard. And again, where they're not walking the talk, no site scoreboard. Here's an example, a good example of a site scoreboard in a hallway where all the workforce walk past to get into the factory. And you can see they're using the red and green. Green, we achieved target. Red, we didn't, so people know straight away. And you're seeing the trends by having the charts, normally weekly measures for, say, 26 weeks, and then in 6 monthly lots is what a lot of companies use. So that's the first one about senior management support. The second one is ineffective frontline leaders, or what people call wages leading hands. And what we found is you need to ensure your structure supports the development of your frontline leaders. So why are frontline leaders so important? Well, back in the old mass production day, the leading hand's job was to allocate tasks, and that was it, make sure people did their tasks. In a TPM and Operational Excellence environment, based on the learnings from the Toyota production system, and many other companies have gone down that path, is that the frontline leaders are the ones who are applying Dr. Edwards Deming's quality concepts of prevention at source, finding problems at the earliest possible time. In other words, what Toyota learned was their whole journey of Toyota production system was, yes, trying to minimize the total cost of manufacture, but most importantly, human capital development, developing the people. So the best person to develop your operators is your frontline leader, the person who's with them all the time. And therefore, your frontline leader or your production leading hand needs to be able to train and develop your workforce, your operators, so they can do things in a standard way, right? Operate things to standard operating procedures, and most importantly, be able to identify problems at the earliest possible time, whether they be quality problems, equipment problems, safety problems, and not only just find the problems, but get involved in problem solving. So there's a lot of training going on, and that's where the frontline leader comes in. So what they found was if a frontline leader or leading hand has any more than 7 people, they just can't do it. It's just, they can't put the time in to develop the people. And then you don't get the performance you want from your plant. So that was their key learning, and they had to restructure their place so that everyone in the leadership chain didn't have any more than 7 direct reports, so they could develop the people beneath them. And that's what we mean by having a supportive organisation structure to allow the development of frontline leaders. Because what they found was by doing this sort of structure, it looked very hierarchical, but in essence, if you go and do the sums of 7 frontline leaders with 7 direct reports reporting to a supervisor or level 1 salary person, and that level 1 salary person with 6 others feeding up to a manager. So the manager has 7 level 1 salary people reporting to them who all have 7 frontline leaders with 7 people in their crew. Do the sums, you end up with, you could have anything up to 2,800 people reporting to that site manager or operations manager. So it is very, very efficient if you think through it and apply it correctly. And what the learning has been is if your wages production frontline leaders aren't effective, properly developed, everyone else in the leadership structure tends to work down a level. So what happens is your supervisors tend to be doing the work of what a frontline leader properly developed should do, and the manager is doing the work of a supervisor because the supervisor is too busy doing the work of what a frontline leader should do. So everyone works down the chain, and as a result, resulting in little time to support improvement activities because everyone's too busy. Now, if you've got that situation in your workplace. And apart from having the right structure, also need effective daily review meeting plan, because the daily review meeting should be used to develop your frontline leaders. Right? So what you want is your frontline leaders to have their start a shift meeting and then go off about an hour later or so and go to their supervisors daily review meeting with support staff, and then the supervisor would go off to the manager's meeting. Now, the key to all this is the development process. How does the supervisors learn how to be really good at running their daily review meeting? Well, the manager teaches them. Then how do the frontline leaders learn how to run a really good start a shift meeting? Well, the supervisors teach them at their daily review meeting. So one of the most important meetings to get right is this one. And what we've found is when you have that meeting, it should be focused on developing your frontline leader. So in other words, if you've got 3 frontline leaders, at your daily review meeting, you would not say to everyone got a safety issue, everyone got a quality issue, etc. What you'd be doing is saying, okay, frontline leader 1, in your area of responsibility, how did you go with safety? How did you go with quality? How did you go with delivery? How did you go with any equipment problems? Do you need help? How can we help you to have a good day? In other words, how can we help you grow? Future shock impacting your leaders at the front line. What is future shock? Oh, future shock is where projects commence some time back, pervade an organisation to the point where they start to affect the most important people, those directly responsible for the leadership of the value-adding activities of producing a product or service, in other words, the operators. So what happens in a lot of organisations we see, and again for you to reflect on this in your organisation, is that the leaders of the front line are your frontline leaders, your leading hands, and your supervisors, typically. So what happens is in organisations, everyone wants to improve. So the quality department will come up with some site quality initiative, improvement project. Then the IT people might come up with a new project, which might be a new management information system, for example. Then you've got all your capital project works going on. Then you've got your HR department might come up with a new appraisal system to help develop people. Corporate might introduce a cost reduction program because they're having hard times in the marketplace or financial crisis going on. Purchasing department might react to that and say, well, we need a stores reduction program to get rid of our working capital. Safety department might want to introduce some new safety initiatives, which are extremely important. Production department, they've got to get on this. They might introduce something about how to reduce the variation in their quality performance, right, in running the plant. Maintenance might introduce a new work order system or a equipment defect management system, right, to support TPM. HR department might introduce a new work agreement, enterprise agreement time. And the site, there might be, we've really got to do some hazard reduction program. As an example, so every department starts their initiative, all with great intentions, and starts working on the project. But after a period of time, guess who has to get involved in learning the new way of doing something, or what this means for you? And what happens is you start getting shock waves coming towards the leaders of the front line. And they come from all the different departments who are often working independently. And the end result is the poor old frontline leaders and your supervisors are spending all their time going off to briefing sessions and meetings and whatever, and can't get their job done. So the impact of future shock, the overload of extra meetings on key people in the organisation. These are your frontline supervisors and your leading hands. This can lead to the point where they become dysfunctional due to the build-up of the frustration of not being able to get their normal tasks completed to the quality level they pride themselves in. Now, have you ever seen a situation where a supervisor or a leading hand at the end of the shift goes, oh, I'm out of here. I'm not going to stay back and finish off my paperwork or whatever. I'm out. And that's where they start becoming a little bit dysfunctional because things don't get done. And it's not their fault, right? And that's the thing. They're just being overwhelmed. So symptoms of future shock in action. Workplace not orderly, neat and tidy because people just don't have time to do something about it. Safety hazards not being picked up on. Quality problems being missed. Equipment problems being missed. Production planning not being consistently achieved. Being late for meetings. Overall culture of workplace morale low. People issues not being addressed immediately. In other words, someone has a problem, we're too busy, we can't do something about it immediately. Then it escalates and escalates and becomes a big issue with the unions banging on your door. etc. Why can it derail your improvement journey? Well, too often the TPM and Operational Excellence improvement journey is seen as another thing to be added to the already growing list of things required by management. Blend this into an environment where everyone is being impacted by a lot of other projects, and you start to get dysfunctional behavior or resistance to the new improvement journey. So how do you assess if you're heading for future shock? Well, we suggest conduct a two-part review to determine whether the effects of future shock are already present. But one, identify and evaluate all improvement projects progressing at the site, and identify the time constraints of your people caused by attending too many meetings. I don't know if anyone here attends too many meetings. So you need a framework, and that's where the key success factors for operations is a great framework to evaluate the tangible benefits, and then you add the intangibles to it. So first one, how to identify and evaluate all improvement projects progressing at the site. Conduct a survey of all managers and supervisors, an often face-to-face survey or focus group meeting, to identify all current planned and potential improvement projects, documenting such in a simple, consistent format so you can compare them. So a format could be include a little paragraph to each of these 5 points, or it might be just 3 dot points to each one. What the current situation is, what the future state, expected outcomes from this project, resources required along with timeframes, and expected impact on the front line. Who will need to attend a meeting, to be trained or informed to do something different. How to identify the time constraints of your people causing by attending too many meetings. Have every supervisor or frontline leader list the regular meetings, and if appropriate, training workshops they attend each week and month, along with planned time and actual time. So there's a half-hour meeting, but I always goes for an extra 15 minutes. Classify the meetings into categories. Okay. We've talked about reactive improvement, and we talk about proactive improvement, and there might be some others, but at least you can see, oh, this is important for our reactive, running the business. This is important for improving the business. So how do we minimize future shock? Well, obviously we've got to prioritize all the projects, rationalize them. That is, look at how many we're doing. Now, I've been at sites, and one at, remember years ago, Comelco Roll Products, went in there, site of about 700 people, quite a big plant, but they had 70, 80, 90 different projects going on all over the place when we did this analysis. Once we got it all prioritized, rationalized, blend a few together, recognized the limitation of resources, we came up with 7 that they focused on. And what was happening with those other 79 or 80 or whatever it was, you'd ask them, how many have you been working on? Oh yeah, all these. How many did you get completed in the last 6 months? Oh, none, but we all worked hard on them. Right? You limit what you'd focus, what you're doing, and the idea is to start knocking them off. Every 3 months, knock them off, bring another one onto the list. So if necessary, put the rest on hold until resources are freed up by completing existing improvement projects or initiatives. A great case study I heard at a conference once from Tennessee Eastman in America. And again, the CEO went into the place, did this exercise, 34 projects, it was a smaller site, got them down to 5 and said, 5, we can handle 5, and all of a sudden started knocking them off. Whereas before, they'd been working on these 34 projects for the last 6-12 months and achieving nothing. There needs to be clarity on what is expected by everyone in the business, then ensure the best structure and policies in place to support that expectation. How much time should you be on these projects? It's like doing root cause analysis. We always say a person should only be doing one at a time until they get to the point where they've come up with the root causes. Otherwise, you overload your people. So the importance of consistency of purpose. Your site leadership team is for all improvement activities. So all the improvement activities should come under the site leadership team for improvement. That's what the project managers are doing, what the cross-functional teams are doing, what the area-based teams are doing, Six Sigma teams are doing, whatever, or 60 black belt people are doing. All those things should come under the one banner. And the site leadership team role is to ensure you do not create future shock for your frontline leaders by regularly monitoring of the situation. So if your frontline your senior managers in the site leadership team for improvement, if that doesn't exist and operate really well, that's the biggest barrier you've got. And that's why I had it up front earlier. Now, the other thing that you get the site leadership team to do for improvement is we find it best to run cycles of 3 to 4 months or 12 to 14 weeks. And then a week before the end of the cycle to sit down and have a planning session and look at, okay, how do we go for the cycle? What are the urgent critical things that are really important to us? How are we developing our people to grow our people so they find a team, keep them on another team for the next cycle? That 5-year master plan and those world-class targets, which is all part of our improvement vision we're trying to achieve, and any other opportunities you might have collected. And then you can put together what we're going to do for the next cycle, plus update the master plan so we can see longer ahead. Again, no proper planning, you're going to get future shock, you're going to get a lot of barriers to where you're going. So just to sum this up, key learnings to address future shock: review all current projects using an agreed format. Review all meetings that people attend, planned and unplanned. Classify the meetings into reactive, proactive, and other. Set policies to limit people's involvement in improvement activities. Prioritise and rationalise existing projects so as to limit them to within your agreed policies for improvement, with remaining ones put on hold. Ensure all projects and improvement activities have clear targets and timeframes which are monitored weekly by your site leadership team or other area leadership teams, recognising the importance of 12-week time limits on, because once you go over that 12, 14-week time limit, people tend to lose energy on the project or improvement team or whatever they're doing. And then you need to review it, celebrate, and then reset up. So I hope that's been of some help. How can we help you develop your in-house capability? Well, latest CTPM eTech article, which will be sent out to you following this webinar, is about identifying, managing future shock, and goes in a little bit more detail about how to go about doing that analysis to see where you're up to at your site. We also have now our new online self-paced accredited training, our yellow belt course, the strategic introduction of Australasian TPM and Lean, to demystify the journey to TPM and Operational Excellence. So that's available if you go to our webpage. It's self-paced, so you go at the pace you want, and it is accredited for yellow belt. We have another one we've just released this week, which is getting new equipment right the first time. Feedback from our members is that, yes, we are looking at bringing new equipment in a lot of our sites. Yes, we want to make sure we have a hassle-free installation, not have project engineers throw something at operations and then walk away to the next project, and we maintenance and production fight to make the thing work really well. So that's another, that's based on our one-day workshop that was very successful. But again, with COVID, we can't run public workshops, so we've made an online one for you. With that, any questions or comments? And while Nelson is checking for questions or comments, I had one question come to me in the registrations. And that was, at our sites, most people have experienced TPM over the last decade. However, many anticipate that new leadership may substitute TPM program with Six Sigma systems. What are your suggestions for the best way forward? Well, my suggestions would be that there's nothing wrong with Six Sigma. One of our longest serving clients, Cooper's Brewery, very, very successful, have Six Sigma within their overall operational excellence journey. TPM was a big foundation at the very start, but when they got into their, for example, brew house, where it's all about liquids in pipes and whatever, they found Six Sigma detailed quality analysis was very, very helpful. So they make that, it's very good. But Six Sigma's got to fit into that overall framework of the key parts of TPM and operational excellence. So I'd go back to that slide I showed you at the start and go and talk to your senior managers who are going to put in Six Sigma, say, yes, we support that, but where's it going to fit in with all these other things that we're doing to get to operational excellence, which include TPM? So anyway, that would be my suggestion. Happy to talk more about it offline, but thank you for the question. Any other questions there, Nelson? I know we're a bit over time.
Doesn't seem like we have any questions at the moment, but if you do have a question, please type it in the question pane on the control panel, and Ross will be happy to respond, or you can contact us at a later date or send us an email. And just a reminder that a link to the recording of today's webinar will be provided in a follow-up email to you later today, as well as that eTech article that Ross mentioned. The link will be in there for you to download that article. So please feel free to share it with your colleagues. I don't think we have any questions, Ross, so I think in a couple of minutes now we might leave it there. So I guess that brings us to the end of today's webinar. We hope you took away some learnings from the session, and we encourage you to complete the feedback form after the session to let us know how it went, and if you have any topic suggestions for future webinars, which we'll be happy to put together for you guys. Thanks once again for attending, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.